How's it going, everybody? Wade here, XL Painting Contractors, and I'm just going to answer a question that I've had over the last few weeks, which is what's the preferred brand I have? So the simple answer to that is I don't have a preferred brand. I use the brand that works. And the reason that I work on that premise is that every manufacturer, when it comes to paint, especially paint in the wet trades, are constantly reviewing and changing and fine-tuning their product. A company will come out with a product and they'll try to match it, and there's always a little bit of test dummying going on there. Painters to try out and get feedback, and then they'll go and tweak it a bit more. So the paint I used last year from a particular company may not be the same paint I use this year, because either A, they've changed it and I don't like it, or B, the opposition has come up with a more refined product. So it's a constant sliding scale. I've gone backwards and forwards between different companies over the years for certain products. For an instance, so you're doing a project yourself that may not be quite as important to you. I mean, your main brands are all going to have reasonably good products, but when it comes to to a personal preference for a painting contractor, and I'm talking about a painter that's a qualified trade painter, not someone that's picked up a brush for 6 months and calls himself a painter, and unfortunately there are a lot of them out there. I'm talking about someone that's like myself, that's got a minimum of 10 years experience. So because of that, literally someone like myself, I can actually pick up a bucket of paint. I can tell if they've changed the brand, if they've changed the contents of that bucket. And and it may be for better or worse, but I can say, hey, you've done something different with this paint. It sprays differently, it brushes differently, the flow's different. It could be a positive or a negative. So if it's a negative, then I have a conversation with the manufacturer, and we look at if they have an alternate product, or I go somewhere else. Because the aim of the game for me is to go onto your project, onto your home, and produce the absolute best outcome, the best product for the longest lasting time, to give you the best finish. You've got a time frame to paint something. You can't afford to put a product on it that's going to fail or isn't going to perform in the way you expect. So if you're coming across painters like myself out there that are passionate about what they do, then you'll find that their answer will be, they might say, oh look, I prefer X brand, however when it comes to doing exteriors in the winter, I prefer to use this stuff. Because there are situations where you've got paint that I prefer to use in the winter, in the summer, hot days, cold days, rainy weather. It really depends. It depends on the colors. Some products really struggle when they've got heavy color in them. So the rule of thumb is there is not one company out there that has the answer to everything on your house. But every company has gold standard products that have stood this test of time and normally hold up when they get applied. So what I mean by that is that they do the job you expect. But every now and then, like we're going through at the moment because of the crisis we've had with COVID and things and supply chains, some of those products get changed, and not necessarily is the manufacturer going to let you know that they've changed it. And then I'll be asking questions of what that is, and if it's going to affect the finished product that I'm going to supply you as the customer. So rolling back, if you are somebody who's just going to do a little bit of painting for yourself, and we're not talking from a professional's point of view, we're just talking from a layman's point of view, just go for any of the name brand companies that are in your area, talk to a couple of painters, and if you start getting a little bit confused and they say, I prefer this brand, or no, don't use them, they're no good, I prefer to use this brand. End of the day, you just pick a brand that's got a good name and go with them. It doesn't have to be the #1 brand, because that doesn't necessarily mean they've got the #1 product. So do a little bit of homework. Like I said in the past, do a little bit of homework. Go on social media, have a talk. It may be you've got 3 companies that supply a product for you that are classed as being premium. Put them in a hat, pull one out, and you're pretty much right. But when it comes to what I'm doing, I have a particular way that I like to do my projects. They have to have a certain finish to them and a certain look to them. So I'm looking for undercoats that prepare the walls well, that sand very well, that don't clog up the sandpaper, that allow you, when you put in a light over it, to see what you're looking at, that absorb your top coats into it, key but not too much, so it just disappear into the wall, but it keys in enough. There's what they call a holdout. There's a certain gauge of holdout on that undercoat, and the top coats, by the time you put 2 coats over it, you want to have that nice, if you're using the ultra low sheens, you want that nice soft glow, that satiny look, and it's going to be even, and it's going to be easy for an applicator. And I mean, when I say easy, I mean for a tradesperson, you want to be able to brush that on, and it wants to level out. You don't want to brush it on and it just sits there like you've just used a broom to put it on with. So I don't know if that's really answered the question. The question I posed, I guess I'll pose to everyone out there in YouTube world and Facebook land and every other land that's out there with the social media is, what's your preference as a customer? What's your confusions? What's the things that make you pull your hair out when you're trying to figure out what paint to use? And maybe I can try and help you with that in the future.